Stare. It is the way to educate your eye and more. Stare, pry, listen, eavesdrop, die knowing something. You are not here long. Hey, welcome to the Street Shots Photography Podcast. This is Antonio.
And this is Ward.
And this is episode 163 for the middle of July 2022.
It's July.
It is July.
A warm night. I'm having a warm night.
It is hot and muggy, and I have the air conditioner off and the windows closed so you don't hear the ambulances so much. And I got a fan on, figuring I could sort of mute that noise later on. And this ambulance is driving at 3 miles an hour. Can you hear it?
Well, yeah. There was an ice cream truck going by a few minutes ago.
Mr. Softy.
Which is more obnoxious.
Yeah, I don't know. I used to like Mr. Softies, but I can't eat that kind of ice cream anymore because I'm lactose intolerant. And so that would send me to the hospital in an ambulance. That's driving at 3 miles an hour.
You. Exactly.
Yeah. No, there isn't. I miss ice cream, but yeah. So anyway, yeah, here it is a Tuesday night. We both have our beers in our hands. I have an Allagash White beer. I can't remember what you're drinking.
I'm drinking a New England Pale Ale called Hazy Shade.
Hazy Shade. Yeah, and I thought I wanted to do a show, not do a repeat. I think I just want to ramp up again a little bit. So for, anybody who's been listening to the show knows what's been going on in my life. And the death of my wife, it's a little over a month ago. But it wasn't just that. That was sort of the how to say it. It's not the pinnacle. That was like the crescendo of, in the past year. Which has been running in the background for a long time. So just to sort of get back up and running, I'm still not over. I mean, I don't really think I'm going to be over this loss at all. But for those of you listening to the show or who maybe haven't tuned in, this was 2 episodes ago. Ward, I'm very grateful for you to guide me through that episode.
No problem. It's my honor actually to do that.
I really appreciate that. I mean, I was thinking I don't want to do an episode, and I was like, you know what? I think Elizabeth would have wanted me to do that, regardless of what was going on. So I don't think I could have done that without you. I didn't want to talk about this by myself. Yeah, thanks. And I do want to give a shout out to our brother from another land, Bart Busschots, who really plugged that episode. What did I call it? Episode?
Well,
Memento Mori. Yeah.
Memento Mori, and the one before your Dispatches from Greenwood 14.
Right. Yeah. You did. Those are sort of a back-to-back thing. So I want to give a shout out and thanks to Bart for listening and supporting.
And that's the Let's Talk Photography podcast.
Let's Talk Photography podcast. Yeah. Put a link in the show notes to him because he deserves it. So thanks for joining me, Ward, tonight.
No problem.
I know you're busy.
Tuesday night, warm night, beer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wife and her girlfriend have gone to a country music festival in the center of the country, and I got a few days to work my butt off, but basically sitting where I am now, typing instead of talking. Yeah, well, this is my semi-Friday night. I mean, I have tomorrow off, so I get to hang out a little bit later. Well, you have other things to do, but I wanted to. It didn't have a real definitive topic today. I mean, anybody who wants to listen and hang out with us and grab a beer, it's talking photography, what's been going on, because there's been stuff going on in the background. So I figured, let's just talk about that and see where we're going, and then ramp back up. We've got, I
I think a couple of guests lined up, not for the next episode, for in August. But I'm not going to give anything away yet until we make sure we get those. And so maybe some surprise guests. I'm sort of doing what I would do at the end of the show now, but
there are no rules
there are no rules, especially when I'm drinking Allagash White, which is some might think is a really pansy beer, but it's not. It's really good. It's a Belgian wheat beer. It's nice for the summer.
Yeah,
so anyway.
I like wheat ales. They're my favorite.
Yeah. So, yeah, I've been going a little crazy.
Okay, are we talking gear-wise now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have been going a little crazy with gear. I don't want to give the whole backstory to it because it's whatever. It's just too much and a little personal. But I decided to give a shot to doing medium format photography. And I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why yet. And I consider I consider the ability for me to be able to do this as gifts from my wife as she passed away. And because
just so we're starting with medium format photography, we're going to go to field cameras and then maybe a car and then a new house in the country. Like
no,
there's no slippery slope here.
There's no slippery slope. No, okay. I actually though I am. Just a side note thing is like I don't know if I'm going to stay in the apartment that I'm in. I mean, I'm not making any kind of those decisions yet, but that's one of the things that's sort of in the back of my mind. Like, do I want to stay here and stuff like that? So if I do end up moving, it's not because I'm going woo and buying a country house. It's because I don't know if this is where I need to be and whether I can afford it, on my own, or I don't know yet. So that's in the back burner. So yeah, that might come up in the future. So we'll put a pin in that for now.
All right.
But, and you know what? I don't know. Just like part of me wants a Tesla, but we got to rein in those kind of desires. I have no need for a car. I want. And actually, you know what? Considering that there's needs and wants, I don't need a medium format camera. I never needed one. But given circumstances, I thought I might want one and see what happens with it. I mean, again, with anything, with anything that you buy or anything that I buy, I don't, if I don't want it, I can always sell it, right. Given the way cameras are these days, it probably would be a pretty fast sell in terms of, because cameras are so hard to get hold of. But, if I couldn't do this when Elizabeth was alive, we were more struggling with funds and stuff like that. And then, there was a little bit of relief after she passed, and it's not like I'm going hoo, but it's I consider this a gift from her to me, given all that's gone on, and she's going to start haunting me. I know she's going to start flickering lights and doing something to me to say, no, don't do that stuff. But anyway, yeah. So I was thinking about what?
Yeah. So what's? I mean, you're holding us in suspense here. What did you get? Or you were?
What did I get? Okay. Yeah, I'm leading up to it. I kind of wanted to get the Fuji GFX 100S. So that's a 100 megapixel behemoth, right. And that's nowhere to be found. That one is a camera that supply shortages and chip shortages. It's just I don't know when that's ever going to come in. And I was thinking, like, do I really want that many megapixels in general? And then I thought, Then the 50S Mark II was available, and I thought, all right, you know what? Let's go with that. So I bought that camera, the Fuji GFX 50S2. Okay. It's not called the Mark II, but it's the 2, and it's my first camera ever that had more than like 25 megapixels.
Right.
And, this is not all about megapixels and stuff like that. It is in some way, but
it is when you're editing the files.
It is when I'm editing the files. Yes. But so far I've only been putting them on Lightroom on my iPad, and they've been handling them pretty fine. And I got 3 lenses. It came with a kit lens, a 35 to 70, which I'm not going to do the math right now in my brain, but you multiply that number by, I think with this camera, it's 0.79 to get the 35 millimeter equivalent. Then I bought a 30 millimeter, lens, and that's about a 20, I think it's like a 24, 25.
Mm-hmm.
So it's wide. And then today I just got an 80 millimeter, 1.7, which is the size of my head. It's huge. I feel like
It's
like
big
a
as
camera.
is it as big as the X mount 50 F1? Like that's a monster.
It might be. I don't know that one, but it's not tapered like that one is. I mean, it's big and
Right.
fat. It's like a
it is big.
Yeah, it is big, and it goes with the body. I mean, I kept reading about this body, and like, it's not as big as I thought it was going to be. So this was just a desire to see what happens. And sometimes I buy equipment or lenses, like we knew the lens hangover from last year, which was one of our best episodes, by the way. I don't know why. In terms of like
because
downloads,
we had the word lens and
lens in it, maybe that's right.
You gotta put
put lens in this one. But sometimes the lens, like I was buying some of these third-party lenses, the kind that you sell at Ornis Photo, and seeing where they lead me. Yeah, of course, our unofficial sponsor. And just seeing where the lenses lead me, like reading about them and seeing other results with them, and then seeing if they sort of fit to my voice that I create in photography, or at least one of my voices. We have multiple voices in photography. Right. So given circumstances, I thought, well, let me see what the medium format can do. And the jury is out, obviously. It's too early. I think I've only had this for like a week and a half.
How do you like the handling of it? Because it's pretty slow compared to just grabbing with your X100V.
It is very slow. And actually, that's part of the thing that I like about it, because it reminds me of photographing with my my Miele RB67. There's a big kajunk when you take a picture, right? And you can set it up to take multiple shots, but there's a kajunk and a wait, and you're waiting. Even though I got the fast card in there, I have to wait a little bit for it to show up on screen. And we probably talked about this a million times, but this idea, everybody talks about this in general, about slowing down with photography, especially digital photography. Slow. And this is sort of a built-in slow because of the size of it too. And then I have to be really careful about focusing because of the big sensor and the sharpness, and trying to see everything. Like I'll tell you some Frankenstein stories in a second, but there's a lot more involved, and it reminds me a lot more of the film days. And I had medium format. I had an RB67. I still have my twin lens reflexes, but the RB was like the size of Frankenstein monster's shoe. Talk about a camera as big as your head. One time, I'll tell you a little story about this, but my friend Big Tony and we had taken a trip to New Mexico and then to Seattle. And I had this giant, I still have it, this giant Bogan tripod with a crank, to lift up the center column.
Yeah.
I brought that thing with me. And this is in the early 90s. So I'm trying to think about how I even got that on the plane. I obviously checked it in, but yeah, no, that was the tripod I brought, right? Yeah, it must have been the tripod I brought. And when we went to Seattle, I had my Nikon gear on a backpack with this RB67 with I think 2 lenses, plus this Bogan tripod, and we're going to Mount Shuksan in the Cascades.
Okay.
And we drove all the way up, and then we had to climb up. And I'm from ground level here, and so
that's right. So you're getting a little lightheaded.
Climbing up with all this stuff up this mountain, and it wasn't like we were rock climbing. We're on the path like the tourists go, with this giant Bogan tripod and this RB67. I think I barely got 2 rolls off before I was like, forget this.
Yeah, I'm dying.
Yeah, and I still have. You can't see the those of you, because of the podcast you can't hear, but you see these boxes right about there behind me.
Okay,
those have the medium format chromes that I took on those days. I think I shot a lot of Fuji Velvia and the RB67. Anyway,
a nice film.
It was a nice film, especially in the large 120 format. It was incredibly sharp, the Velvia 50. So anyway, it's reminiscent of that. It's not as heavy, but it is heavy. It feels like a significant camera, and there is a slowness to it that is beginning to percolate in me a little bit. And I can, with all my other cameras, yes, you can be slow. I can be slow by just walking around with my camera and taking one shot. But there's still something about the physicality of a camera And, we talk about this a bazillion times that I don't know, the equipment doesn't matter. Yes, I could probably, shoot all my photography on this little Sony camera that I'm using as a webcam, right?
Yeah.
But do I want to? No, I don't. I want to experience different things. I like the different lenses. So this is more of an experience and a want than a need. I don't need to do this. I'm not a wedding photographer, portrait photographer. I'm not going out, this is not going to run a business. And right now I'm not in the business of being a photographer. So this is more of like, what can I do? What kind of art may I be able to create with this? And yes, I could have rented it and all that stuff. It's not what I wanted to do. So, this is, this is a lesson. Do as I say, not as I do, people. Go and rent your cameras. Don't go and buy stuff. But, yeah. So the first shot I took was, of course, one of my cats. I always...
Every new lens, every new bit of gear. I was,
every new gear, they're there. They're
Opie
the first
Vision.
things. Yeah, Opie, or this time it was Ed. And it's usually, of course, it doesn't make any sense because I was shooting indoors, so I couldn't really test the sharpness of the lens. And I'm also holding it, so there's a lot of camera motion. That's what I'm noticing. There's a lot more camera motion being picked up. Probably more on the 100 megapixel than on the 50 megapixel. So I'm kind of maybe glad that I went this route instead of the other one, because I do a lot of handheld stuff, even though it's got the stabilization. Anyway, we're getting really technical here about stuff. And so, but like I walked around this morning, I went out for breakfast and then walked around my neighborhood a little bit, just to get some exercise and with the camera. And, I took a couple of shots that I think would not have been the same on a smaller camera.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
In what way? What could you?
It was detail. There was an enormous amount of detail. I shot this. Actually, I really liked it too. Just walked by this alleyway and I looked in and there was sunlight coming in the alleyway in a very strange way. And there was a lot of shadows and there was a lot of ambient sunlight causing. So there was harsh shadows. I'll show you the picture. I'll put it up too in the show notes. There was a lot of harsh shadows and diffused shadows in the same shot against a brick wall with graffiti on it, but it was at an angle. So the graffiti was kind of desaturated by the sun, but the bricks, it was like an old brick wall. And once I started to stop down my lens, and this is where the Frankenstein story comes in. Anyway, I'm jumping ahead with the end result. The picture's really nice. I mean, the format is 4:3. It's not 3:2 or 35 millimeter format. It's 4:3, so it's more like a cell phone format, which I'm very used to all the time because I shoot with my iPhone a lot. Yeah. It's already like that 8:10 size,
kind of fat.
Yeah, it's fatter.
Fat rectangle.
It's not quite square,
Yeah.
It's like a square with an attitude. It's a rectangle with a square attitude or something like that.
Right.
But the detail in it and the way it captured, because it's these kind of sensors have a lot of dynamic range, and so there's a lot of information in the highlights and the shadows. And so I just dumped them onto my iPad in Lightroom and started messing around with it and dropped in some Kodachrome presets and whatnot. And I was like, you know what? This is a bit different than I've seen on my smaller cameras. So, that was the beginning of something. Now I say Frankenstein before because I've also been getting I bought an adapter for it so I could put my Nikon lenses on it. The Nikon lenses are for my full frame film cameras, right? And so there's an adapter that you can get that will help it's a Metabones adapter, which will spread out the image circle a little bit so it will cover the giant sensor. And it's not an autofocus thing, it's manual focus, but it does spread it out. It's like a 1.6 multiplication. Okay. On some of the lenses, it looks pretty crappy. I tried... I actually shot I put my Nikon 300 millimeter on it and shot with it if I could hold it steady enough, and it's got IBIS built into it, so it was okay. Those weren't too bad, but the couple of lenses looked like crap. I tried to put on my 18 millimeter. It was terrible. It looked terrible. But this morning I did glom on my Nikon 60 millimeter macro. So I say it does look like Frankenstein. You have this old Nikon attached to this Metabones attached to this Fuji. And that one worked really well. And so that was what I was walking around with, shooting. And So that was really nice. It slowed me down. It's not autofocus, and I have to hold it steady. And again, it's heavy with this adapter on it. So there's a whole process about taking pictures with it that I'm beginning to feel, which I also haven't felt in a while. Like again, not having the pressure. I mean, I hate to say this in a way, but there's a sense of relief that Elizabeth is gone and she's not in pain anymore, because it was causing.
And you had mentioned that before.
Yeah, it's causing my energies too, and I'm not blaming her or anything like that. It's just like anybody who's a caregiver, and my heart goes out to anybody who's. I mean, on the scale of 1 to 10 in terms of caregiving, I think I might have been on a 5, or 4 or 5. But I know there are people up there who do like 10 or 11, and my heart goes out to those people who do that kind of stuff, because, especially for longer periods of time, I had a short period of time, not as intense, but my mentalness, my ability to sort of do my own work or even think about stuff, my own work, was just gone. So I just can't imagine it was something else. But anyway, not having that pressure anymore, and like also not having pressure about taking pictures for money. I can or even just like to take photographs. Like, I took a picture of a wall. I don't think I've been thinking about that for a while. But if I walked around and take pictures, like I took pictures of the fireworks July 4th, but that's more technique, like, hey, I can get a, shot of the, Empire State Building with fireworks in front of her, or the parachute drop in Coney Island. Actually, I get a nice shot of that. But that's like, being in the right place at the right time. It's not me. It's one of the voices, right? We talk about having multiple photographic voices. That's one of my voices.
Yeah.
It's fun. It takes it, but it's like empty calories for me,
Right.
And a lot of my photography, I think maybe some of the stuff I was doing in Greenwood Cemetery, it feels like more empty calories. So this is maybe starting me to get back into like taking care of myself photographically, in terms of like creativity and just, I don't know what. So it's a journey that I'm starting again. And,
it sounds like, you posted a couple of pictures to our private Discord, and looks good. Like what
were the pictures again? I
there's a stillness. Well, walk around the neighborhood, right?
Oh, the walk around the neighborhood. Yeah.
So there were some good images there.
It does have a different look than, just like anything. It has a different look, and I wasn't expecting that. But actually, it's funny because I was expecting more of a different look. It's not as much of a different look, but I think that.
But they have a stillness to them for some reason. I mean, they look like your other pictures of walking around the neighborhood, but I don't know. Even before you identified them, because you posted them before you said what camera they were taken on. Yeah, you put them up somewhere.
I put them on Facebook. Yeah.
And then like, these are, I felt have a little bit of a different feeling, even though the subject matter was some of the same.
Okay.
Yeah. So, no, I thought they were great.
Thank you. Yeah. So, to be continued. We put a bookmark in that to see what happens. Generally, I know the kind of person I am. Like, I still have my old, my Nikon D2X is sitting in a closet. I never sold it. So,
right. Well,
if this camera doesn't end up being the kind of camera I'm using, chances are, it's not going to end up in a closet. But I'm that kind of person. I don't really get rid of stuff, as you can see from my background here, which nobody can see.
Got lots of stuff. You've got board games and all kinds of stuff going on.
Board game. I know. This is the kind of stuff that won't end up on YouTube. There's a HP printer box there I got to send in. No, I'm not a hoarder. I'm not a collector. I just put stuff away in a different way than most other people do. I'm not.
Right.
But anyway, so that's kind of where I'm at with this. I wanted to sort of update everybody and you.
Okay.
See where we're going.
Cool. Well, I'm glad you got some interesting gear, and it sounds like kind of a new photographic world you're stepping into there.
Yeah, and I want honest feedback. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it, but it'd be nice to hear from folks if they're feeling something the same, like you're feeling something different about the kind of images. But yes, it is a process, and I do like. I like the physical slowness of it. Like you have to work slowly.
Right.
You have to, even with an autofocus camera and the autofocus lens, I have to, move slowly and pay attention. So what's been going on with you in your photographic adventures? I know you've been busy a lot.
I've been busy a lot. Work has been interesting, and
said interesting with the quotes.
Yeah. So it's our big fair is the Calgary Stampede. The way it's been described is Mardi Gras for cowboys, right? It's
called the Calgary Stampede.
The Calgary Stampede, yeah. It's like I guess south of the border you'd consider it like a big state fair.
Oh, is it? Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's sort of in the scale of that. So
right.
You'll get 200,000 people showing up on the Midway and going to see a big outdoor rodeo and that sort of thing, and art exhibits. And it's one of the bigger.
Where does it take place in relationship to you, roughly? Like, do you have to travel far for it, or is it?
Yeah, I have to take the train. Like I could take the train, but I have the office building downtown that I work in, so I can park in my office building and just take the train a couple of stops down to what's called Stampede Park, which is it's where the NHL Calgary Flames play. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on there. It's a kind of multi-use facility. There's a racetrack that was originally for, horse racing and that sort of thing, but it's not really used for that anymore. Just for the chuck wagon races, and there's an infield for rodeo events. Gotcha. And there's a big grandstand there, concrete grandstand.
All right. So you've been busy week, and then how did you get to
So the big deal is I haven't been there for 2 years because of COVID.
Oh, okay. Yeah, cool.
And it's one of my largest, whatever you want to call it, continuous projects in my life to go shoot the crowds there.
Oh, really? It's a project? You're doing this?
It's a project, yeah. Okay. So, and it's a one I'll keep doing. And you see it on my Instagram as called Stampede Heads. So originally it was just pictures of people. And now it has no meaning anymore, Stampede Heads. But so the Stampede Heads number 6, Stampede Heads number 5, whatever.
Okay.
So we're in the 50s somewhere now.
Oh, really? Wow.
And so I go through and I try and find stuff that's interesting about, the diversity of humanity that shows up on this Midway. And so I'm busy.
So when was this? Is this like your break time? Like, when did you go? When I
used
busy,
to work,
how did you get time to do this?
Well, that's the problem now. Before it was, I was working the office building downtown, and I would take the train down after work, and I would work until dark. No, that's fine. Yeah. I don't know if I was ever going to get there, so it's glad you redirected me. So I go down there, work till dark, and then I can come back to my office, drive home, or take the train all the way home. My train station is pretty close to my house. It's about 2 blocks away, so that's kind of convenient for a person who wants to work downtown. So never mind. So I went 2 years without doing it. It was definitely closed in 2020 because it was some of the worst of the COVID threat around here. And then it did open in 2021, but it caused an outbreak. So, I'm old enough and, didn't have, the vaccine I was just freshly vaccinated. I'm like, I'm not going to go down there. It's not worth it. So it did cause a spike in whatever. So I won't talk about that. So this is the first year where I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go down and do my thing.
Okay.
So all that to say, I'm back. So I felt a couple of rusty. I felt rusty for the first couple of hours. Let's have another sip of your New England.
I'm
going to have another sip of my beer. We're all good.
In for a penny, in for a
rusty. Rusty was not happy. Okay, no. Okay, so I felt rusty or not as prepared or as comfortable with the gear or speedy or prepared, I guess.
So what do you shoot with when you do this? When you're walking around?
I have 2 Fujifilm Xe3s.
Okay. So very discreet little cameras.
Yeah. So one has the Fuji the Fuji 50mm f2. The other one is the Fuji 23mm f2, the Fujicrons, whatever you want to call them. So during the day, when it's daylight, before dark, I shoot crowds walking toward me with the 23, and I capture groups of people in different outfits, different looks, different everything. And so it's sort of a catalog of the different people that happen to be walking the Midway. But at night I switch to the 50, and that's a lot of kind of covert portrait stuff that I do at night, where I have the camera on my chest pointing perpendicular to the way I'm standing and using the back screen to compose.
Oh, so you're sort of holding it like this, and then the screen is out like that,
Yeah,
and it's pointed this way.
the camera's pointed out to the
It's
side,
pointed,
out to my
oh,
right.
okay. Trying to picture this in my head. So you got the camera
Yeah.
perpendicular to your chest or something like that, and the
Yeah.
lens is pointing left or right.
Yeah, and usually
Are you using the
vertical
screen to
composition.
look to
I'm
compose?
using the screen to compose. I'm looking
Sideways,
down.
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it doesn't have a flip screen. I don't care.
Oh, it
So
doesn't.
I just
oh,
look at-
so you
yeah,
have
the
to look.
XE3 doesn't
yeah,
have
yeah.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you got a little
So I'm just
contortion
looking-
thing going on here.
Yeah, and it's part of when I'm shooting with a 23, I'm actually not looking at all. I'm
Because you got enough room there.
because I got enough room, and I don't really crop that much actually. My problem when I'm shooting with a 23 on my chest is the horizon issue. But anyway,
Okay.
so I shoot with the 50, and these last few nights, so it's a Saturday night, Sunday night, Monday night. So I've been there three evenings in a row. I've been using the 50 almost pretty much exclusively.
A little more challenging, yeah.
Yeah, but the light is beautiful because you're lit from the from the vendors and the games, the carnival games and so on. So there's this nice light that's spilling out over, and fluorescent. I mean, you can say all the nasty things you want about fluorescent. Most of my work's black and white anyway. It doesn't matter, but it has a broad light that's almost like an umbrella in some places, right? When you're facing it from a few feet away from those lights, or it works out really well.
So you have a definitive. You're going to go in the daytime. You're using one lens, and nighttime you're using a different lens.
Yeah,
it's a different. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm standing in the dark when I'm using that 50, so I'm just standing there. People don't know that I'm.
Yeah.
Unless they're right beside me looking at what I'm doing with the camera, they don't notice. And I've got pretty much all the time in the world to set up and wait for people to move or let people go through the frame. Like, sometimes when people see that you're taking a picture, they'll try and walk behind you, or they'll stop and freeze. And
right.
No, just keep walking. Going. You're supposed to be part of the shot. Yeah. And I like that kind of like, as people are walking by, that's an interesting depth effect that you can do.
Yeah.
But if you
as a side note, just how people really respect that space between the camera and the subject, that they'll walk around or go under or do all this stuff so that they don't get in the middle of the picture. Yeah. It's amazing that people will do that. And then, people do other crazy things like that, but that space between the lens and the subject seems to be a very sacred space.
Yeah.
That they don't want to
interrupt.
For some, yeah, but like, I'm sure if you set up a camera on a sidewalk and put a subject there and made a whole show of it, people would walk around behind you instead of most people, maybe not New Yorkers, but
anyway, some people just wouldn't notice and they'd walk through the frame.
That's true. Yeah.
That's fine.
Anyway, but okay. So you're doing all this. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, it's been a rough week work wise, and my wife went on a small vacation to Montana, and the car broke down on the way back, and we had to get the motor club to come pick it up, and I've probably got a huge bill coming for that. And then she left today with her girlfriend to go to another country music festival, and sort of like all this upheaval, and so I'm looking for looking for some kind of oasis, some kind of, photography is therapy, I think is the term you use. Let's try something that'll put a nice end to my day. And so I decided, instead of just trying to catch the weirdness and kind of plain diversity, which there's a little bit of a Gildan in me where I want to catch the strange, maybe not as extreme as he does, but if there's something kind of more interesting looking than somebody else, I'll probably pursue that. This time I was just like, why don't I just capture moments of human interaction, sort of more like what I was doing in Mexico.
Is this kind of your way to ease back into it after a couple of years and then just having a rough week?
I wouldn't think of it.
Guns, you're just getting.
I wasn't really thinking of it that deep. I just when I was back in situ, right on the grounds, it's sort of like, okay, I don't have the mindset yet. Okay, that first 2 hours is like creating garbage, and then I can slow down. I can do this. I can stand here. People are going to notice me. The whole self-consciousness really goes away. And there are these periods of half an hour, 3/4 of an hour where you're in flow, where there's nothing. You're not even really aware that you're walking anymore. You're just looking. It's like reminded me of Mexico a little bit.
Really? Yeah.
So, and it was good, and it was a nice oasis of shooting, even if the images weren't that great. I sure had fun doing it, and I got a few keepers coming out of it. So I'm going to now. I'm going to wait till dark now for the rest of the week as much as I can. I think I've got maybe 2 more evenings before I have to leave for my own little mini vacation here. So I got a couple more evenings of doing this, and I wanted a kind of a pretty aesthetic. I was just looking for happy, maybe even shallow, if you want to call them that, candids of people on the grounds, as opposed to me catching them being in sort of a gawking kind of aesthetic. This time I'm like, make it as if it's a portrait, but they're unaware that it's being taken. And you look, then you start looking for that specific thing, and you start finding it. You have to look to find that, and I did, and the pictures are coming.
You find it helpful. You found it helpful. I mean, you said photography as therapy. We've talked about that before, but did you find, like, when you were done and even anticipating going to the next couple, like, is it balancing out all the crazy crap that's going on?
Yeah, well, the state of flow means there's nothing else going on in your head except getting set up to shoot.
But flow is in the moment, right? It's
yes
like
and no.
No?
I mean, I know what you're saying in the moment, but
I'm talking about like lingering effects, like a residual. A day later or a half day later, is it like, oh, okay, did it help?
No, immediately. It's immediate. Like,
it's immediate.
I would upload the pictures, leave the cameras to charge, and I do a couple of edits before bedtime. I'd be in bed before 1 a.m, and then cameras would be charged the next day. I'm ready to go. Just get out any period of time. Getting out of your own head is good. And so, definitely, it's definitely made the week more palatable than it otherwise would have been.
Yeah,
and I mean,
good. Yeah.
We were going to do this recording actually tomorrow, but we were thinking maybe, let's squeeze it in a little bit of a different time, so I have more time tomorrow to go down there.
I'm glad you did that.
Most of it.
Yeah, I'm glad, because I wouldn't have wanted this show to take away from that. I mean, I like doing the show, but I don't want to take away from something that's creative and stuff like that, because I'd like to hear about it. I like to hear the end results, or see the end results, I should say. So,
but that's a minor that was a minor accommodation for everything that went on this week. So I'm happy to.
It's funny, because as you're saying that, I'm just remembering what we were talking about when I was on earlier, talking about, like, this is, going around with a camera and considering all the stuff that's going on, and it doesn't make up for it, doesn't solve anything, it doesn't make me change how I feel in terms of, like, things that are going on, but it does soften it a little bit, and make certain things a little bit more tolerable. And I know I'm being very sort of ambiguous here about stuff, but because there's too much to talk about in terms of what it's solving or something like that. But to be able to have that time for yourself, this will come up in the next segment when we talk about stuff, but as a gift to yourself,
Yeah.
We're so often not thinking about giving ourselves a gift, whether it's, this chance to walk around, take pictures, or in my sense, like, buying something that I want, and try something out, to give yourself a gift. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not being selfish or anything like that. People might put a label on it. You're being selfish, or you're being something like that, but it's not. I think it's important to have this time, our ability to be able to do things, and we're privileged in that sense to be able to do that.
Well, it's creativity, right? It's one of the most significant things we can do.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I'm fully expecting my retirement to have a lot of this, this kind of concentration of something that's not. That's creating art instead of, paying bills and fixing computers.
I mean, I'm starting to think of that too, in relationship to what's gone on and stuff, because I don't necessarily have to think of survival or, taking care of somebody other than myself, and then being able to spend some of that energy in my body towards to being creative, or creating, I should say, maybe that's a better term. than being creative. Being creative sounds something weird about it, but creating, building,
Yeah.
and doing something like that. So well, that's great to hear. I'm glad that's I'm glad you were able to give yourself that chance.
Yeah.
And a couple more coming up too. So
Yeah. And so, yeah, tomorrow will be probably my longest evening there working. So working from before sundown to pretty much midnight. I work till midnight after the fireworks there.
It's funny as you're saying that, I started thinking, like, as you're talking about this, I'm like, well, I wonder if I could do something like that. And like, where could I go? And it's like, geez, summertime, and I'm like 2 miles from Coney Island. What a place to go with a camera, a new camera, and emulate something that you might be doing, similar to you, but do it in Brooklyn. Because I've never done that. I've never given them my chance to do that. So
it's a dance. It's a lot of fun, and it's easy to do when you're in a packed crowd. Now, if you're claustrophobic with a lot of people around you might have some issues, but
yeah,
I always walk against the flow of the people coming. I love it. I like that kind of, what's this guy doing? And they're like trying to get around you, and the groups open up. So you'll see a family just in the frame. There they are. And then a group of 3, a group of 2, a guy by himself. I call it the gauntlet, that one little run as I walk east.
I find that so much easier when you're by yourself than if you're with somebody. Because when I'm with somebody, I'm trying to take pictures of myself, but then I'm worried about them. Are they next to me? Are they following me? They bother me. If you're by yourself, you're not thinking about anything other than what you're doing, and you can go into it. So I don't mind, like, even if I am claustrophobic in crowds, which I'm not because I grew up in New York, but even that would not it wouldn't bother me because I'm so focused on just doing something on myself. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Oh, and while I was there too, I ran into a kind of moderately famous documentary photographer, John Lowenstein. He actually lives in Calgary much of the year. As an American dude from Boston and Chicago, and it's great to catch up with him. I hadn't seen him in a couple of years, and he's an interesting guy to look up to.
Yeah,
a lot of heavy subjects that he shoots, but he's an interesting guy, working
You'll have to
guy.
send a link. I'm curious of his work. Yeah, and the name is familiar. I don't know why. I've heard the name before, but I don't know if I heard that name or something else. But all right, cool.
Yeah. Anyway, that's pretty much it for me for my new discoveries. It's very rewarding, fun, and that's what I was meant to do, I think.
Before we end out the show, I want to plug my friend Gene's workshop in the Maine Media Workshop in college. I don't know if that used to be the Maine Photographic workshops, if they changed their names. But we were talking before about, giving yourself a gift. And Gene talks about this in his video, which we'll talk about in a second, and I'll link to in the show notes. But to give yourself a gift of like a photographic workshop. And I've been thinking about that actually. Once Gene mentioned that he's doing these workshops, I was thinking, that's another thing I haven't done before. It's going to a photographic workshop as a gift. But anyway, we'll talk about Gene's photographic workshop. It's called Finding Your Photographic Voice. And I'm just read you a little bit of the description that Gene wrote about it. And just saying, it's tempting to believe great photographs come from out there, but the pictures that seem to arrive as magical gifts from the photo gods actually come from in here. This hands-on workshop uses photography and writing to extract a little bit of the magic that's always happening inside of us, to bring it out in front of us where we can see it, play with it, and turn it into something truly personal. So, we have a relatively small audience compared to other photography podcasts, but if anybody is in the audience who wants a great workshop and you're in Maine or you want to travel to Maine, the workshop runs from August 8th to August 12th. There's still slots available. The class size is 12. Again, I'll put links in the show notes. And Gene made an introduction video to it. You watched it, right?
Yeah, I did.
Warren, yeah. And what did you think about what he was saying?
It was great. He actually, without really describing what my values are around photography and creativity, He seems to have the same point of view as I do. It's not about the individual photographs. It's about the journey, or whatever you want to call it, the process of doing it, and that the photographs are just the state of your art at any one time. And I love that idea, that you're not there to learn how to take a picture of a particular skyline or whatever. It's like turning in on yourself and extracting that creative power that you have, and using your current work as jumping off points to advance.
Yeah.
I love that idea. That's exactly what I'm trying to do.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when his workshop is done, we'll see if we can get him on the show. It might be the end of August, because I'd like to hear his experiences with the workshop himself. And Gene will always say that he'll always give me credit as the one who taught him Photoshop. And
that's no mean feat, man.
No, Photoshop, and it was like, version 3 or something like that, like way back when. And it's the typical thing is like, if, okay, sure, I might have taught him Photoshop, but he's now exceeded the instructor, his teacher. Right. Like he knows more about Photoshop now than I do. I haven't used Photoshop in a long time, and I'm so glad that he can do this kind of class in Maine and have a gathering of people. I mean, that's again another gift to be able to get together and share photographic experiences. And you talk about it in terms of the beer and cameras. What is it?
Beers and
cameras thing. But that having that community again, and we've been a couple of years out of it. And you're talking about going back to your Stampede and even me going out to Coney Island and stuff like that and doing something, or even just getting out with the cameras. And so these are sort of all related. And, we're kind of in the middle of summer now. And so this is the time to get out and, take the cameras out and really start to explore your world a little bit. And, because when winter comes, we're all going to hunker down again.
That's right.
Although some of us will go out in the cold and photograph. So anyway, check out the Maine Media workshop with my friend Gene Miele, Gino. It's mainmedia.edu. You can search for his name, but again, I'll put the show links in there. And again, it's August 8th through 12th. And if you're up for a trip to Maine and learning how to sort of explore yourself in your own photography, or your photography in yourself, a combination of both, check them out. So. Anyway, I wanted to plug that a little bit more than just saying, hey, there's this workshop. I think there's something more to it that we can sort of dive into at sort of a later date. And I know we've talked a lot tonight, and I know you got to go, and I got to go. So anyway, where can we find you in the world?
I put most of my work up on recent state of stream of consciousness, state of the art, whatever. At Ward Rosin Photo on Instagram, and you want to see my Stampede heads pictures, that's where they're going these next few days. I'm on Facebook. I'm Ward Rosin Photography. On Twitter, I am W Rosin Photo, and I have a little business called Ornis Photo at ornis.photo, ORNIS.photo. It's my little 7 artisans lens and lens adapter company. I got an order coming in from Chicago for some stuff. Should be here in a week.
Anything new we should know about?
RB67 to Nikon F adapter. I've had some requests for that. So
really, I still have one RB67 lens. Maybe I have 2.
So those are coming in. I've got, and I'm replenishing some of my stocks. I've been kind of laying low and maybe get some filters on the next go around. But right now I'm just replenishing some stocks, and I was bringing in this RB because I've been asked 3 or 4 times for it. So.
All right. Ornis.photo is our unofficial sponsor.
One day it'll be official.
One day
we don't know when.
Official.
We don't know when that will be.
All we have to do is I have to just drop the unofficial. I can say whatever I want. Right? Nobody's going to know. So, all right. So I'm still not on Instagram, so don't look for me there. Mostly Twitter, AM Rosario. My website is AM Rosario. Flickr, I haven't put up stuff in Flickr anymore, but you can find me. And I do want to reach out to the audience to please give us some reviews on iTunes if you're able to, or any place that has reviews for the show. just to get us up. I want to get the audience growing a little bit, and you guys could do that, I think, by giving us some reviews. Hopefully, thumbs up. I hope you're enjoying the show. But yeah, if you can, I'd really appreciate that. That's more than anything. We do the show out of love. We're not even asking for beer money anymore. Stop doing that.
Maybe we're drinking our own beer, and we're
drinking our own beer, so I don't need any
technical issues tonight.
Right? So. We've had a lot of glitches. Hopefully, the editing will sound right. But anyway, I do appreciate you guys listening to the show and hanging out with us, and for all those of you who've reached out to me through the different communication methods about what's going on with the loss of my wife. I really appreciate it. It's really, believe me, I can't even express how much, like, one voice out of the blue just saying, hang in there, has made a difference for me. So I really appreciate it. I just don't really have words. I mean, that means a lot to me. So anyway, thank you to all those people and everybody who's hung in to listen to us. So, and with that being said, I think we can call it a night. All right.
All right, man.
Yeah, and we might have in August we might have a guest. So I'm just gonna put that little teaser out there. I'm not gonna say who, but we have a date and we have a time. So hopefully it'll work out.
Excellent.
All right, Ward.
All right, man.
I appreciate you joining me tonight. I know you're busy, but thanks a lot.
We're all busy, but we're happy to be here.
All right, and
Okay.
see you in a couple of weeks.
We'll see you.
All right,
Good night.